On the agenda today, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be building, and I'm going to let you know the tools and technologies that we're going to be using. Give you a quick overview of the architecture, just a quick diagram and how the components that are fit together. And that's when the fun begins. We'll do the demo, and finally, I'll give you some suggested next steps on where to go from here to learn even more. Okay, so what we will be building today is an image recognition service, quote unquote, with a K. And we're going to be using a service called Amazon Rekognition that is provided by AWS. And basically that service is named Rekognition with a K. Instead of creating and deploying our own machine learning model to be able to do that, which is recognize labels in an image, what exactly is inside an image, etc., we're going to be using Amazon's Rekognition service to do that. And we're going to expose the service that we built. We're going to expose a particular function that Amazon Rekognition provides, which is the generate labels, I think, or I forgot the name of the particular function. Um, I think it's generate labels. We're going to be exposing that using a AWS API gateway. So those are the tools and technologies that we're going to be using. Rekognition, which is going to be fronted by an API gateway, which is going to integrate with an AWS Lambda function, and we're just going to be running the Python code, or in your case, you can run your favorite programming language, whatever you like. And then the image is going to be recognized and a response is going to be sent back. Okay, so what is Amazon Rekognition? It basically allows you to uh, integrate image recognition and video recognition and analysis into your application. So that's just what it is. Today, we're just going to be building one use case. There's a lot more use cases for recognition, which is to recognize the content or detect labels in an image. I think that's the name of the function, detect labels. What is AWS Lambda? AWS Lambda is a serverless compute service that lets you run code. And in our case, this is where our integration is going to happen. We're going to be running a function within Lambda that's going to perform the API calls or the function call to AWS Rekognition to recognize the contents of the image. And what is API Gateway? API Gateway is a fully managed service that allows developers to create APIs at any scale. Basically, think of it this way. You want to expose certain pieces of functionality that you've built on top of AWS, use API Gateway to front it, and you can send information from API Gateway back to your AWS services and get responses back. Here's a quick and simple architecture. The right side of this, I'm sorry, not right, left side of this diagram, which is actually creating the desktop, web, or mobile application, that's going to be beyond the scope. We're just going to create our client. Or we're not going to create a mobile, web, or desktop client. We're just going to use, um, just, I forgot the name of but we're just going to create a Postman. Yeah, sorry. We're going to create a post request in Postman, and we're going to be sending it over the public cloud. API Gateway is going to pick up that request and is going to pass that request over to Lambda. We're going to do something within API Gateway before we get to Lambda. We'll get to that part in just a second. And then Rekognition will take that image and analyze the content of the image and detect what's inside that image. For example, if it contains bananas or people or furniture or whatever, what have you. So let's get into the demo. Okay, let's go to Google Chrome and let's go to API Gateway. Actually, I think our first job should be to create our Lambda function. So we're just going to go to, by the way, I'm already logged into AWS. You probably need a free tier account to do all this, but I would recommend definitely most of the stuff that you are going to see today, you should be able to remain within the free tier and definitely delete any functions and APIs you create at the end, just so that you don't expose everything for the world to use. We're going to create a Lambda function. We're going to call author it from scratch, and we're going to call the Lambda function image Rekognition API function, image recognition function. And the runtime that we're going to use today is going to be Python 3.8. And we're going to change the default execution role. Actually, we're gonna create a new role because we want to give it permissions in just a second, and we're just going to go ahead and create the function. This recognition function, the function that we're creating right now, is the one that is actually going to perform all the um, all the heavy lifting of actually calling the recognition API. However, before we do that, what we do need to do is we need to configure the security and the permission of this so that this particular function can actually make calls to the recognition. Now, this Lambda function is running under the role, and the role name is image recognition function role with this stuff right over here. We need to give this role, particular role, the ability to call the recognition function. So we're just going to, sorry if I'm going too fast. We're going to click the role name under the permissions tab, and we're going to go onto IAM console and click on attach policies. And then we're going to find Rekogni, and we're going to find Amazon Rekognition full access. Obviously, I wouldn't recommend you do that in a production environment. Don't give full access ever. Only allow access to the level that is needed. But in our case, just for the demo, that should be sufficient. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach that policy. And now we have attached a role, or sorry, an additional permission to our role for this Lambda function that it will be able to make calls to the Amazon Rekognition by assuming this role. You're going to go ahead and click on the tab, code tab, sorry, that's my phone, and find the Lambda function.py. As far as a stub is concerned, everything looks good. And we're just going to go ahead and deploy this function. Okay, actually, it's already deployed, so we're good to go. We don't need to do anything else. Okay, what's next? We now need to actually create the API that is going to be fronted by this or be fronting this Lambda function. This Lambda function is going to be behind the API gateway. So we're going to go under API gateway. Actually, let's start from scratch. We're going to find API gateway and we're going to create another API. We're going to call it, it's going to be a REST API. Click build. We're going to call it image Rekognition API. And gonna go ahead and click create API. Now that our API has been created, what we need to do next is a few configurations on this API. So first, we need to create our request methods that are going to be supported on this API. I'm not going to create any further resources or URLs or subs within this API. I'm just going to create a method directly at the root, and it's going to be a post method. And I'm just going to click check, and our post request has been created. Now this post request is going to be fronted by the Lambda function that we just created in the US East 1 region. So let's go ahead and find the image recognition API function. And this post request is going to be integrated with this Lambda function. And we're going to go ahead and click save. It's telling us that you're about to give permissions to it to call the Lambda function. We're going to go ahead and click OK. And there you have it. Our post request is ready. Now, another configuration that you're going to need to do is go under actions and click on enable cores. Now, it's not best practice to enable cores. You actually want to, if you feel like, go ahead, if you research, core stands for cross-origin resource sharing. We don't want any old, domain to be calling our API resources. We want everyone to be blacklisted, and only those domains or requests originating from resources that we know should be allowed. But in our case, we're not going to do the default approach or the best approach, which is blacklist everybody and then whitelist the people who we want to be able to call our API. We're just going to go ahead and enable cores. And we're going to go ahead and click enable cores, and it's going to give us some warning. And you say, yes, go ahead, enable cores. Okay, now our cores has been enabled on our image recognition API. So another thing now we also have to do is we have to go under settings and we have to enable what is called a binary media type. Our API needs to be able to support a binary media type. Specifically at that particular post request, we're going to be sending some images that I have already prepared. And the type of images that we're going to be sending are image /JPEG. That's the content type that we're going to be supported. What's going to happen is at that particular endpoint, at that particular post endpoint, if a user sends a request that whose content type is equal to image JPG, we want it to be considered as a binary media type, which is a file. In our case, which is going to be an image file. We're going to go ahead and click Save Changes, and our binary media type configuration is ready. We created our post method, we enabled cores, we enabled our binary media support, and now what we have to do is we have to go to our API and find our post method, and we have to do something in this integration request. Now let's go ahead and do a quick review of how API requests work. Whenever a request is passed to this API, it will forward that request as it sees it directly to the Lambda function. But before arriving at the Lambda function, if we are sending raw binary type data over to the Lambda function is going to choke on it. The reason Lambda function is not going to like that request is because Lambda expects JSON as the input for its event object. So in order to do that, we need to go ahead and click an integration request. And within our Lambda function, we have already specified that this is the Lambda function, but we need to specify a mapping template. And in our case, for the mapping template, we're going to click on Add a mapping template. For the content type, we're going to say image/JPG and select this checkbox. And for the mapping template that we're going to use is this one. Let me find my code here. Actually, that's my architecture. Where is my? I can't find my. Let me see if I can find my JSON file. Oh, there it is. That's the mapping template right here. It's a very simple mapping template, and I'll explain what this is doing in just a second. Let's go back to Chrome and paste that in. Now notice what this will do is it will generate a JSON object, and that JSON object is going to contain a single property called image. And whatever is passed, which is going to be the raw binary data or the image file, as the input body, it's going to attach that to the image property of this JSON object, and then it will pass this particular request in this JSON format in the event object over the Lambda function so that Lambda doesn't choke. So we're going to click Save, and we are good to go. That should be it when it comes to configuration of our API endpoint. Now, we have created our integration. Now it's time to go over to our image recognition API function and basically replace the code with the code that we are going to be using. Whoops, let me make sure my phone doesn't keep bothering us. And let's find, where was it? This is the mapping template. This is my Lambda function code. I'm going to go ahead, Control A, and paste it into my Lambda function, Control A, Control V, and go ahead and click Deploy. Now let's go through the code line by line. We're going to do our classic imports. We're going to be using this base64 in just a second. Boto3 is Python's API or library for Amazon. Now, if you want to make any calls or create any clients to any AWS services, Boto3 is the library you want to use in Python. Our classic Lambda handler, event, and context objects are going to be there. And this event object is what's going to be passed from the API integration and pointed to the Lambda function. And because it's going to be with the integration request, it's going to be turned into a JSON object. The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a Boto3 client for the Rekognition service. Then this is going to create our client object. And then whatever is passed to the event object, and we'll notice how we're subbing the event object with the tag image. This event object is going to contain this image property, and that is where all the binary image, the binary data is going to be. So within this event object, there is going to be an image property, and that image property is going to contain all the binary data for the file. That's where we're going to save as under the file content. Then what we need to do is we need to decode that into a base 64 decoded string. And then we need to create our response object that we're going to be returning with this Lambda function. The response object is going to expect two arguments. Actually, one argument or two arguments? Oh, three arguments. Sorry. One is going to be the named argument called image, and this is the bytes uh, property of that image dictionary that it expects, and the decoded content of the file that we base64 decoded needs to go here. This is the detect labels function that we're going to be using. If you want to read more about how to use the detect labels, you can read more about that. But basically, the detect label function expects the base64 decoded content to be part of this dictionary object like this. The max labels that we're going to be detecting is 10, and the minimum confidence that we need to make sure in order for it to detect a label is that it needs to be sure that 77% sure. You can set the threshold to whatever you like. And finally, whatever response is sent back by this client, this response object is then going to be dumped into JSON, and then we're going to return that back to the API. I hope that much is clear. Now, one last piece of configuration that we need to make is we need to change the timeout value, because last time I tested this, the 3-second configuration for this timeout value was not enough. So I upped it to almost a minute. But let's see if 10 seconds will be sufficient. And if it's not, you have a homework assignment. Try to figure out why my code is not working. All right, and let's go ahead and go to code and go to, actually, it's already deployed. So we're good. We have done all our pre and post configurations to the API gateway, to the Lambda function. Now it has come time, which is the big reveal. We need to publish this API. So we're going to go ahead and click Actions, click Deploy API. I'm going to call a new stage. We're going to call this the dev stage, and go ahead and click Deploy. This is our invocation URL. If we want to go ahead and start invoking this API, there is our invocation URL, and we're going to go ahead and create a Postman and in just a second to basically send a request to this URL. However, there's a better thing we can do. Under Export tab, we can actually export everything that this API has into a JSON object, and then import that into our Postman. So Postman, let's find Postman, and let's start the application. Let's hope it runs in the right window. No, I don't think it did. Let me see if I can't bring this guy over. Come on, Postman. I'm running out of time. Oh, it ran in the right window. That's good. That's Postman coming up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and click the import button, and we're going to upload files. We're going to find the file that we just downloaded in our case, which is image recognition API, which is the Postman JSON, and we're going to click open. And we're going to click import. What this will do is it will create an image recognition API collection for us with everything pre-configured. So if I go to it's my API right here, it's at the root level, it supports a post request and an options request. I'm just going to go ahead and click the post request, and let's go ahead and build. Come on. Something went wrong. Postman is encountered error. Close. Okay, I don't know what that was, but go ahead, image recognition. Let's go to post. And there is our, we can start sending post requests. Now, the beautiful part is I don't have to remember the base URL. It has created that as an environment variable for me. Now let's go ahead and start preparing the post request. I'm going to go to the headers and specify the content type to be equal to image JPG. That's the only one we're going to be supporting. And within the body, we're going to include the binary, and we're going to select the file that we're going to be including. So let's go ahead and find within OneDrive Accenture. Whoops, where did it go? ABG, video, recognition. And let's go ahead and try to recognize some elephants. We're going to send the elephants.jpg over to that particular post endpoint and go ahead and click send. Let's see what the response it gets back. Status code success, yay. And notice the labels that it found. It thinks that there is a zoo. It's 99% confident that there is a zoo. It found an elephant. It found a mammal. It found other things. And this looks amazing. So now let's try to send another post request. This time, let's try to recognize some furniture. And go ahead and click send. And there it is. It thinks there is furniture in there. It's 99% confident. What else? It found it thinks it's indoors, which it is. It thinks it's a living room, which it is. You know what? And it also tells you where it thinks it found those particular labels in that image, the particular location, but is what is meant by the bounding boxes. And let's go ahead and try one last thing and select the file. And this time, let's try to recognize some luggage. See what you get. Gonna send the request, and it only found luggage, and it's 97% confident that that's what the image was. So let's go ahead and see those images in action, shall we? What those images were. Find them in OneDrive. BG images, and let's bring. Oh, come on. For some reason, I can't bring it into this window. But furniture and it's not allowing me to bring it to the. But you get the idea. Even though you can't see the images, I'll include the images in the description below, and you can take a look for yourself what it's recognizing. So next steps. What can you do? Try to troubleshoot the Lambda timeout problem that I was experiencing. Experiencing the Lambda or increasing the timeout to about 10 seconds solved the problem, but that was still a little bit too slow. See if you can troubleshoot where my problem is in my code. Why don't you try to also create another API endpoint? And instead of this time just detecting labels in an image, can you try to detect labels in a video? Why don't you try doing something with the response? Like what should a client do if it sees an elephant? Or what should a client do if it sees luggage or a child in an image or some objectionable content maybe? There is an objectionable content API available for recognition. You try doing that. Finally, secure your API and clean up your API. For security, try, either you should generate API keys and only allow those, requests with the API key to be able to make a call to your API, basically enable CORS, sorry, not enable CORS, disable CORS, and only whitelist those domain origins that you whitelist to be able to call your API. And if you don't do any of that, finally, just remember to clean your API up. Delete your API, or at the very least, delete the stage that you created, because right now you've just opened your API up to the entire world. If somebody discovers that URL, they can keep sending an image request to it over and over again and run up your bill to infinity. So please don't do that. Go ahead, clean up your API. And that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. And until next time, I will see you later.